So I'm excited to present to you guys a compilation of videos by Robert Kiyosaki. Now, Robert Kiyosaki has been very successful in real estate. He's known for his book series, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and what he wrote his book for was to instill in his children and presumably other people's children kind of the differences in both mindset and approach to wealth creation, as well as how to become successful in the real estate market. Now, without further ado, here's some of the best video clips and wisdom from Robert Kiyosaki.
I always ask people, what did you learn about money in school? And for the answer for most people is nothing. They all learn economics, balance a checkbook, but that's really not money. And the reason they don't learn about money is because the story of Rich Dad, Poor Dad is my poor dad was a PhD, which stands for poor, helpless, and desperate. No, he's a good man. But as you know, they don't learn much about money. And my father knew nothing about money. And that's the problem. So we have all these academic elites, like Obama and Hillary and those guys. They run the country with no financial education.
And I've never understood why our school systems don't teach us anything about money. You ever wonder that yourself? Why? Because rich or poor, smart or not so smart, we're all going to use money. And it's because our school systems don't teach us much about money. That's the reason so many people are having problems today financially. And so I'm not blaming Wall Street or people who are financial advisors. I'm blaming our education system for not keeping up with the changes in time. So what happens because we don't have much financial education at school, we actually learn it from our families.
It takes 50 years for a new idea to enter the school system. 50 years.
50? Wow.
Yeah. Same as construction industry. It's a very slow industry. Construction, you have a new idea like, do X, Y, Z. It's 50 years before it's fully implemented. Now, in technology, look at these cameras around us. It's about 18 months.
Right.
So different industries have different, what they call lag times. So education and construction are the longest lag times. So I wrote my first book in 1992, and the title was, If You Want to Be Rich and Happy, Don't Go to School. Now the reason I did that was just to start the clock. The moment I published that book, and it was trademark and all that legalized trademark, the 50 years began. That's kind of my logic.
All right.
So now it's, let's say, 2014, we're now, what, 10, 20, 30 years into it.
Right.
So the clock is now starting to run. So I know another 20 years, there'll be financial education in schools. Everybody will say, well, why didn't we do that? It's so obvious.
Right.
But today it's not obvious.
The thing I want to leave you with tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is have the courage to find that environment, like Tiger Woods on the golf course, Mick Jagger as a Rolling Stone, Oprah in front of television. Find that spot where your genius comes out. That's what intelligence is. My genius was crushed in school. I was labeled stupid and dyslexic and no attention and jumping around all the time. My genius did not come out in the corporate world. I do not like being told what to do and kissing what to get the corporate ladder. I do not do that stuff well. I do well on the streets. Does that make sense, you guys here? That's where my genius came out. And the other thing is that I flunked out of school twice because I could not write. And after I flunked out of school and then this book I was scarred for the longest time. I really thought I was stupid. It pained me. Here's my father, the superintendent of education, and his son's a moron. You know what I mean? It's all this. So what I'm thinking about, if those school teachers are still alive, I'm going to look them up on 1-800-SEARCH or something. I'm going to find their names. I'm going to mail them a copy of my book, page by page, say, here it is. But the point here is this, I didn't find what I was good at until I had the courage to find the environment when my genius came out. Does that make sense, you guys here? And I ask you to do that. Intelligence is, don't do as you're told, go where you know your genius can come out. It's not easy. Tiger Woods practices like a wild man to get his genius to come out. I practice I write like crazy. I'm not a good writer. Does that make sense to you guys here? It's not easy. If you think it's easy, this is not it. But you and every one of you at home, You need to find, or I recommend finding where your genius lies. What environment do you become the best in? If you're very smart with money, the banker will give you as much money as you want because you know how to make money with money. If you're not very smart about money, all the banker will give you is a credit card and a home loan. So my rich dad said financial intelligence is not so much how much money you make, but how much money you keep, how hard that money works for you, and for how many generations you pass it on to. Then you're thinking like a rich person. So the point I make here is this. Every morning I get up, I still need to make that choice. It's not been an easy choice, but I still need to make that choice.
The middle class person the middle class believes in a big paycheck, good education, job security, and a pension. You know, so they, like when I was a Marine pilot, most of my friends stayed in the Marine Corps not because they loved the Marine Corps, but it was a good pension. And I said, well, that's not very spiritual, you know. Or most school teachers want the steady paycheck. Now, my point of view is, psychically, that's what they broadcast onto a child.
Right.
So if the teacher believes in a steady job, a steady paycheck, and no risk, and job security, any idea a child may have, like your child may say, well, I don't like that idea. They get crushed.
Right.
Okay, that's the risk.
What the middle class tells their kids is that they should have a good education, get a good high-paying job, a house, and a pension. What they are passive investors. A passive investor is somebody who turns their money over to somebody they hope and pray is an expert. The poor are non-investors.
Well, there's many reasons for that, but the middle class is not getting ahead. The rich are increasing, but the tax laws are written against the middle class. So we just got together and said we can't change the tax laws right now, but we can change people. So we'd rather teach you how we got rich so that other people can move up rather than move down.
You know, what you just said about your house is a liability, it's not an asset. Most people think it is their biggest investment.
Yes, and that's one of the biggest middle class traps. They say, my banker says my house is an asset. And my rich dad would say, if you can read a financial statement, you'll see, you can read that your house is actually a liability. I'm not saying don't buy a house, and I like big houses, and I like the finer things of life. Just don't call a liability an asset. And what's trapping the middle class is they're buying liabilities they think are assets.
For example, if I'm an employee, I pay higher taxes than being an employer.
Right.
So the more employees I have, the less tax I pay. Now my employees get all upset. Well, how can you not pay tax? Well, the reason is government wants jobs. So an entrepreneur, you know, creates jobs. So because I create jobs, I get tax break. They also want me to produce housing. So my wife and I have about 4,500 housing, low-income housing. We get massive tax breaks for that. You know, free money, basically. The other thing we invest in is food. You know, we invest in farms and all that. Because we produce food, we get tax breaks. Government wants food. And the other thing is oil, because oil is energy. You know, people say, well, the greenhouse effect. Well, oil is used in plastics and everything around us. Oil is used, fertilizer. So because the tax programs are stimuluses for entrepreneurs to do certain things, we pay no tax. But if you do what the government doesn't want you to do, which is have a job and work hard, they tax you.
Okay.
If you save money, you're taxed. You go into debt, you're not taxed. Think about that one.
I've never heard anyone present it the way you do.
It's
when you draw that quadrant, you're like, what is going on? I am the fool.
Well, it's yin and yang, you know, the yin and the yang. There's always one side. The hard part for the poor and middle class is the rich are opposite. You know, when I'm saying I don't pay tax, they think I'm a criminal, but I'm not. I mean, I can only do it because the government grants me the power to do that, because I'm doing what the government wants me to do. See, I drive my car like anybody else, but I also have about 400 oil wells, so I produce oil. And I get huge tax breaks for oil. Because if there was no oil, the economy would collapse. No, the greenies go nuts, but let them create solar power, and then you won't be arguing with me. Now, the harder you work for money, the poorer you get. And the reason for that is money was designed to steal our wealth. You know, I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing, because it makes me richer. But like the yin and yang of life, everything has opposite sides. So everything that rich dad taught me was opposite of what my poor dad was a school teacher, you know, good people, but they don't know anything about money.
Right.
So on one side, my poor dad's always saying, work hard, you know, go to school, get a job, save money, and get out of debt. On the opposite side, the Yang side, don't do that, you know. So when I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, it was about the opposites. That's all it was. And the rich don't work for money. The richest people in the world don't work for money. You know, but the average person, that's not part of their consciousness. So you look at Steve Jobs. His paycheck was $1 a year.
Right. Same with Bezos as well, right?
Yeah, they don't want money. So the reason I say and I do and I speak and I teach is kind of just the yin and the yang. You got to see the other side too. The reason it's hard for the poor and middle class to get rich is because the philosophy, the thoughts, the actions, the education is opposite. I don't save money, I borrow money. Okay, once you understand that, I go, why would he do that? Well, if I can borrow money, I never have to say I can't afford it. You know, I can afford anything I want as long as I can borrow for it. So debt is good, but it takes education. So, you know, the moment I have enough money, it's really hard to get motivated again. Because if I just make more money, it's just more money. I don't need it.
Right.
You know? And then I give a lot of it away, which is nice. But there's really got to be the juice and the fire, you know, a sense of mission. I don't work for money. I work to solve problems. So the answer, I'll give people the answer, is the rich don't work for money. They work for assets. You know, an asset produces cash flow, not a paycheck. Cash flow is not taxed. Paychecks are taxed.
Right.
You know, the guys that pay the highest tax are the self-employed, small business guys. But they keep saying, well, he says don't work for money, but you know, I have a business. You've got to convert your cash into an asset, not the stock market, into an asset. So I have a friend, 50 years ago, he's an old guy now, but he was like 12, 15. His grandmother gave him chickens. And so he started producing brown eggs, you know.
Yeah.
This is in the States. And he started selling his eggs. Then one day he decided to sell a chicken. Then he was out of eggs. I see. He cognized, he says, if I kill chickens, I don't have eggs. But if I reinvest my egg money into more chickens, I have more eggs. And which came first, the chicken or the egg? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He realized the egg has got to come first. So today, he is in his 60s or 70s. He produces 10 million eggs a day. And his whole focus is to serve more people and produce more eggs. So now he has huge acres of chickens producing eggs, shipping eggs all over the U.S. The guy is a multi-billionaire because he's not only selling chickens, selling feathers, fertilizer, all because he saved the chicken. Look at the other side. They say, don't get into debt. I'm in debt up to my balls. Well, there's good debt and bad debt. See, bad debt is debt I have to pay for. So my house, I have to pay for it. So it's bad debt. Mortgage is bad debt. At the same time, I have about $300 million in debt. But it's good debt because my tenants pay it off. My landlord. So I'll say it again. So good debt is debt that somebody else pays off for me.
Right.
You see, the beauty about real estate is you learn to use debt to get rich. I'll give you another tip. If you're going to be rich, you have to learn to use debt. It's called other people's money. So when I hear poor people say to me, I don't have any money, I said, because you're an idiot. That's why. You're not supposed to use your money. You're supposed to use other people's money. Well, that's debt. I don't want to do that. And so they stay poor. But the reason I own real estate is debt and taxes. Because I can buy real estate with debt, and the more debt I have, I pay no tax. And if you watch Trump in his elections, he says he doesn't pay tax, and he's the king of debt. So it's opposite of what you teach in school. They tell, you know, like Susie Orman says, cut up your credit cards. Yeah. And you know, Dave Ramsey, who's a friend of mine, says, live debt free. That's very good for the bourgeois, the middle class. You should live debt free. Mm-hmm. But the rich are opposite of that. I have debt and I pay no tax. That's why I'm in real estate. Mm-hmm. If you understand that,
you'll understand it's not the real estate, it's debt and taxes that make you rich.
I'll say it to you again. I know what it feels like to be broke. I've been there. I was broke, but I wasn't poor. Poor means you're poor in spirit, too.
4 years of military school and 6 years of the Marine Corps, and it developed the warrior spirit. Now the problem is when that warrior spirit comes back into the real world, it doesn't do well. So then I had to take all that spiritual energy of the warrior spirit and divert it into the entrepreneur spirit, because corporate world is another spirit. So when I entered the corporate world for Xerox, I thought I died and went to hell. I just couldn't play the games. I'm glad they do.
Right.
I'm going to get a promotion. Someday I'll be vice president.
Fake. Okay.
Well, for me it would be. For them, they love it. Like some people like soccer, some people like rugby. It's just, I love rugby because it's more contact.
Right.
Soccer, there's contact too, but I just don't understand. I can't punch the guy.
Okay.
So it's a different facets to our spirit.
Okay.
So, so when I was in the Marine Corps, one day in Vietnam, the warrior spirit left. I didn't want to kill anymore. It was over.
Okay.
And that's another problem began because I had to fight some more. My job was to kill people. And that's when a lot of problems began because my spirit evolved out. My body was still there. And I didn't want to do it anymore.
Okay.
So you understand what I'm saying? So we all get to these points where it's time to move on.
Okay.
Spirit says, hey, done enough, move on.
When we met, I didn't have any money, and without her, I would never have completed a lot of my work because she was she is the strength behind me. And I fell back on her many times. I know she didn't marry me for my money, but she has really earned the right. She has her own corporation. She has her own accounts. She doesn't need me to take care of her. And I think that's really the freedom of the whole thing here. I think that's what her message is.
It's so true, because when I really understood investing and understood how to make my money work for me, one of the greatest gifts is I no longer needed Robert. And he didn't want me to need him. I desperately wanted him, but I didn't need him. And so what happened is the relationship got so much stronger because we got to choose to be together just because we wanted to be together, not because there was any kind of dependency.
So, like my wife, I don't know how she's put up with me. You love the one you're with, but a lot of times you beat up the one you're with too, because my wife sees the worst side of me too. So that's why the biggest lie I ever told, and they lived happily ever after. There's no such thing. Because you see the best and the worst of a person. It's easy when you're on a date sipping wine for the first time. Oh, she's pretty cute, he's pretty cute, You get married, man, the box opens.
And what is your secret to keeping a long marriage?
Well, my wife and I...
and you're in business together too, which can strain a relationship.
We have an agreement, if there's an upset in our relationship that's more than 45 minutes long, we call a therapist.
Smart.
Yeah, I mean, that's what therapists get paid for, is to handle our garbage, So if I'm angry with Kim, which is most of the time, she rarely gets angry with me. She says, "Oh, go call her." Okay, But it's something I'm not. It's an incomplete thought in my head or incomplete emotion. Like a lot of times, she probably triggers my mom. Something with my mom, or I'm her dad, and so the therapist just handles the upset, not right or wrong.
Right.
And I see a lot of relationships where they died. The marriage is dead. There's just two bodies spending time together, and they don't talk about it because the last time they talked, they got into a fight.
Right.
So they sit there nice and polite.
Right.
And they don't say what they really want to say. The marriage is dead. Love is a function of communication.
Right. So you need to communicate. If you have a problem, get someone else involved. Get it out there.
Yeah. If I can't communicate well, get somebody else to interpret.
Okay.
It's important. Marriage is important.